Hello, welcome to the MMQB NFL podcast. That's Albert Breer in a cool sailing hat. I'm Conor in New Jersey.
It's not a sailing hat.
It's a sailing hat.
It's a bar.
What? It says sail on it.
It's a bar. It's a Boston Sail Off, which is a bar that I was in like 3 nights a week when I was in my 20s. And my good friend Trenny, Casey, her husband Sean, they live in the North End, which is the neighborhood I lived in for 7 years in Boston. It's the Italian part of Boston. And the Sail Off was, again, the bar that I was in like 3 or 4 nights a week when I was living there. And he had this hat. And I said, man, where do I get one of those? And he went into his bedroom and had an extra one and gave it to me.
Wow.
So thanks to Sean Casey. Yeah. I was actually, when I saw the hat, I'm like, oh my God, I need to have one of those. And so shout out to Trenny and Sean Casey for the hat.
Those are the best
end of the Sail Off for a lot of things I don't remember from 15 or 20 years ago.
Those are the best kind of hats. Last summer, I was at a barbecue at my best friend's house, and his uncle was there, his Uncle Rob, and his Uncle Rob was a shop teacher at our high school. Yep. And he had a Nike hat. My high school's teacher union made Nike hats when they were like going on strike to wear in solidarity. And I was like, that is the coolest hat that I've ever seen. And he just took it off and threw it to me and goes, I have 50 of them in a box in my house. There you go. And I wear it all the time. I love that hat. Those are the best.
It's like a running hat. It's like the Nike running hat too. Because I got a big head. So it's kind of a problem. I don't know. I'm sure there's some people out there that can relate to me on this. Like a lot of hats are like up to here on me. You have that problem at all, Conor, where it's like up to, where it doesn't even come close to your ears. And so a hat that'll pull snugly over my ears is always a win.
Oh yeah. No, it's great. So we're going to get into it, and I want to just start by saying this. Big week of stuff that happened. I want your take on this immediately. I don't want to talk about Chiefs Lions at the beginning, but I just want to say this. You shouldn't have to shake Patrick Mahomes' hand. I'm doubling down on this. I don't believe that anyone should have to shake anyone's hand. Now, Brian Branch probably shouldn't have punched Juju Smith-Schuster in the face, but it started because he wouldn't shake Patrick Mahomes' hand postgame. Are we supposed to just shake Patrick Mahomes' hand? I didn't know that. I thought, can't we turn that down? I don't know.
I feel like all of this stuff has gone way too far. It's like the thank you graphics on Twitter for like the guy who like spent 1 year with your team and you unceremoniously cut, 3 days before free agency. You know what I mean? It's like, we've gone from like the legends getting that treatment to now everyone getting that treatment. And so now everybody has to do all of these things for the cameras just to make sure that no one gets upset at them about like the way they left a stadium or the way that they handled an exit or whatever it is. I think all of this stuff is like ridiculous garbage. And this is what it like winds up amounting to, like dumb stuff like what happened at the end of last night. And I'm all for fights. I mean, I'm the person who tweeted fight in all caps with like 5 exclamation points after it happened. So
listen, anybody who ever played a competitive sport after a game, what is the last thing? Now you do that. Everybody does the ceremonial, good game, and everybody gets in a line and the coaches kind of bracket everybody and then they get them on the bus. What's the last thing that you'd want anybody to do after the most violent sport in the world taking place? And then you're like, okay, now there's a free for all with limited security and now your helmets are off. And just make sure you're nice to everybody. Like, that's insane. Right. What a totally crazy expectation. Like, I remember even in high school, like we got hosed on a call once and they had to like run the officials out to their cars in the parking lot. And like, this was 16, 17 and 18-year-olds.
Yeah. I mean, we like with the 5th graders that I coach, like we tell them like before, like, especially when there's stuff happening in the game, because that happens, like at every level of football that happens, there's crap that happens between plays and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like I like every time, like I like look them in the eye, shake their hand. Like there's nothing good can come of doing anything but that. Look them in the eye, shake their hand.
Yeah.
And you have to remind them because it's an emotional game and, there's inevitably going to be somebody in that line that something happened with that, you're going to have a problem with and you're going to want to say something to. And so you have to keep reminding them over and over again. It's the reality of the sport. You know what I mean? Like I think, we talked about this last week with Jonathan Gannon, right? Like people like want to make the most emotional, violent sport like a gentleman's game, and it just sometimes isn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so anyway,
I don't get it. I mean, you can't have it all ways, and I think that's why. And I'm sure Branch is going to get suspended. Obviously, this is why none of it tracks to me, because you can't have the essence of it on the field without what Jalen Carter did, spitting on Dak Prescott. And I'm sorry, but you can't have one without the other. You can't have Chiefs Lions Sunday Night Football without Brian Branch wanting to punch somebody in the face after the game. And Brian Branch is a great guy. I had spaghetti with Brian Branch, by the way.
You went to Mom's Spaghetti with him in Detroit.
I went to Mom's Spaghetti with Brian Branch. Yeah. Me, Brian, and Greg Bishop. We talked about the Bible and UFC. Great guy.
Yeah. He's actually one of Nick Saban's favorite players.
Yes. And so I think, but it's what happens on the field that creates this thing. And then you're right. You nailed it. Like, I'm so glad I brought this up, because it's then this performative thing that happens afterwards where we're supposed to jersey swap and like pose for social media and be like,
and we're all buddies.
Hashtag all love, bro. And it's like, no, man, that's not how this works. Like, I'm mad at this guy. And then,
I just spent 3 hours running my body into
kicking the shit out of somebody. Yeah. Or getting the shit kicked out of me. And Branch was like, yeah, this guy blocked me in the back. I didn't want to talk to anyone after the game. Mahomes grabbed my arm after I didn't shake his hand. And then Juju Smith-Schuster just pops up like a jack in the box. And then, so yeah, he's going to get,
and I mean, like, Juju's like the ultimate wild card to begin with. So
I don't know. I'm carving out, there's very limited space on this very small island, but I am Team Branch on this one. Not that I would excuse violence, but I'm excusing frustration to the point where, and this ridiculous expectation that we're just supposed to be totally normal after a game. I don't know.
I mean, I also think, like, I don't know, I'm a big proponent of like confrontation solves problems. Like sometimes these things are better.
Get punched in the face guy. I know.
I mean, we have had that discussion, right, about how like not enough people have been punched in the face, right? Yes. Like there are too many people in their 20s walking around right now who've never been punched in the face and who act like people who've never been punched in the face. And I think we had that. Was it here that we had that conversation? I think it was, right? Yeah. So like, there's that whole thing too. But honestly, sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world for someone to get punched in the face. I'm just part of my belief system. And like a lot of times when you have a problem with somebody and it's handled that way in a very confrontational manner, you know what happens? Or you know what doesn't happen? It doesn't linger. It doesn't like the next time the Lions and Chiefs play, like this is probably going to be less of a problem because that happened,
I would think so. And we'll get to Chiefs Lions in a second, but I want to start because, a lot of times everybody comes out of it saying, well, this is the game and this is the game. And we'll get to 49ers and Bucks because Baker's phenomenal. And there's a couple talking points from this one that we're going to hit, but I have not heard anybody start in London with the Jets because, Albert, this thing to me is getting a little out of control. And I think it's time to address how out of control it's gotten. And with the Jets, like that fan base is always perpetually ready to jump on an issue because they've been hurt in the past. And I understand that, but this has now blown past Kotite and is in a new realm of confusion, of what appears to be kind of not competent coaching from the head coach. And it was funny. I looked
I just wonder, like you see it, and I think the world of Aaron Glenn, and he did a great job in Detroit the last couple of years. And I thought he was going to be a really good head coach. And I did too. I'm leaving open the possibility that I was wrong, right? Like it's definitely possible I was wrong on that. I thought he was just what they needed, and it just doesn't look that way right now. And I think part of it is that place was so hot sideways and so haywire. And, I did a lot of reporting last year about all the stuff that went wrong with Saleh and, Woody's rolling it, and how, like people acted a different way when Woody would come in the building, and how just completely sideways that entire place was. And, I just feel like it's funny that you bring up Kotite, right? Because I was a teenager for that, not to date myself again, but I remember, I remember and I was living here in New England. I was in high school, and I was living here in New England as the Jets were pursuing. If this happened today, I mean, can you imagine? Like, the Patriots are on a Super Bowl run, and the New York Jets are stealing their head coach while that's going on.
Amazing.
Right? Like, that's legitimately what happened. Like,
yeah,
like Parcells was secretly meeting with the Jets, like, during the Super Bowl bye week.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But the point is, like, what I'm getting at here is, like, with Kotite, like, things had gone so haywire with the Jets back then. And it was like Bruce Coslett, then Pete Carroll for a year, then Kotite for 2. And like the organization had completely lost its way, and it just needed like a singular force to come in and put his foot on the ground, put his foot in the ground and stop everything that was happening there.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe Aaron Glenn could be that. Now, he's a Parcells disciple too, so there's that part of it. I just wonder if they needed somebody who was more experienced, and they need somebody who can be one voice, who can challenge the owner. And I don't know, who would have been perfect for it, is Vrabel. But somebody who and I don't know if they were ever going to get him when that New England job came open, and we can talk about how all of that happened, over that week and a half. But it feels like a lot of the same stuff that had been going on there is still going on there, and that they just sort of changed out people, Yeah. And can Aaron Glenn be the singular force that changes so many things that happen there? Because they need more than a football coach, right?
The stat that was floating around yesterday, Justin Fields had a 1 percentile EPA game. So that means, Albert, that it's the reverse of when your kid's born at the hospital and they say that he's a 99th percentile head, which all of mine did. That only 1% of the world's babies had a bigger head. Justin Fields had a 1% EPA game, which means that 99% of quarterback games in the NFL.
My mom used to tell me my big head was because I had a big brain. I think I bought it. I think I bought it until I was like 8 or 9 years old.
So did mine, until I got tested for the my mom said I was the first kid in the history of our school to be tested for both the gifted and remedial programs. And then I just landed right in the middle. So I didn't buy the big head thing anymore, but that was a 1% EPA game. And do you remember the game where, I think it was during COVID, where the Broncos did not have a quarterback? Do you remember that game?
Yeah.
So
who was the quarterback for that one?
It was
just a receiver who went to Wake, right? Wasn't he a Wake Forest receiver who had played quarterback before and got converted his last year in college or something like that, right?
It was Kendall Hinton.
There you go, Kendall Hinton.
So Kendall Hinton had a better game than Justin Fields did.
Oh, poor Justin. Poor Justin.
But here's my quarrel with Aaron Glenn, okay? And Glenn took a shot across the bow at my guy Brian Costello from the New York Post after the game. Costello asked about a quarterback change after not arguably the worst quarterback game. And this isn't just Justin Fields' fault. I'm not saying that, okay? But the worst quarterback game in the NFL this year. It's hard to argue against that, okay? I'm just stating a fact.
He doesn't look good. I mean, it's just undeniable,
okay. And it could be the offense, it could be the line, it could be a lot. He's under pressure constantly. There's a lot going on here, okay? Brian Costello asked about a quarterback change, and Glenn says something like, you know better than that. What's wrong with you? We're not just going to change quarterback. But in the same breath, just allowed the clock to run out in a tight game because he's afraid of that quarterback making a mistake and giving the ball back to the Broncos. And so you can't, to me.
Well, how that was preceded with like a fake punt made no sense.
Yes, they faked a punt to keep the drive alive. and then made it to the and you know what? Too?
None of it lined up. None of it lined up. And that's
up.
the thing is like that is your job as the head coach. Is like, you know, a lot of people make a lot of the, oh, well, this guy's an offensive guru, that guy's a defensive guru. And, you know, like I tweeted out the Andy Reid, Bill Belichick comparison last week when the bleep was hitting the fan with Belichick. People are like, oh, well, he's the head coach. Why are you saying how many top 10 offenses he had? Well, because Tom Brady was his quarterback. That's why I'm saying it, you know?
Right.
And because he's responsible. Wait. Responsible for the whole team. Like the head coach is responsible for the whole team. And he's not just one side of the ball. And, you know, like, so those big picture things, game strategy, rules, those things are on the head coach. And so something like a fake punt has to be signed off on by the head coach, and there has to be reasoning behind it. And you run the fake punt, then just stand there and let the clock bleed out makes no sense. And so I tried to like, oh, well, maybe like they didn't want to give the ball back to Denver, but then it was like, okay, like now we're content going. And it just, even that, like, it's not like the Jets defense is finally playing okay. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think I would have had a problem putting the defense back out there if I were them, given the situation. Right. So it's just none of it.
That's another layer to it. I didn't even think of that.
Because the defense has been awful the first 5 weeks of the season. They finally started playing better yesterday. And the crazy thing to me, Connor, is the team's not devoid of talent.
No. I mean, we've been through this, right? I mean, Garrett Wilson, Quinn, like, I mean, this is a good, I mean, could be a good football team.
Now, you can argue the quarterback's holding them back, and I'm not going to argue against you on that, right? But that doesn't mean that has nothing to do with the defense allowing 30 points a game going into this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like no one's playing. I don't feel like there are very many players on that roster that are playing up to their potential.
Do you
who are they maximizing?
Right. Do you think? Now, this is, again, I'm not going here 6 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
But let's say that this extrapolates itself out. Now, again, Aaron Glenn has been pretty good at tying his experiences to those of the Lions. And that first Dan Campbell team was really bad. Yep. And there were a lot of people. I mean,
but they were competitive.
They were bad, but they were competitive. Yeah. But there were a lot.
I'm going to go back and look at, but I don't think they were getting like, I don't think stuff like this was happening, you know?
So in Dan Campbell's first year, they were 3-13-1. Okay.
Right. And they caught fire at the end, right? So didn't they finish like 3-3-1 or something like that? They were like 0-9 or 0-10.
Yeah, it was like win, loss. Yeah, win at the end. And they had that tie with the Pittsburgh Steelers after the bye week. Now, so
they had they played Baltimore. They lost to Baltimore by 2. They lost to the Vikings by 2. They played the Rams relatively tough. There were blowouts in there. They tied the Steelers in Pittsburgh. You know, like, so you look at it and it was like, there were a lot of signs of life, you know?
But was that team, so, and the reason that I bring this up is, so Aaron Glenn was saying, when they asked about, moving on from Steve Wilkes, and I can understand the frustration of a coach. Like every time you have a bad game, someone's like, well, who's taking the blame for it? And I understand the frustration with the line of questioning, but there has been no movement through 6 weeks of the season. And I'm guessing that people are starting to get curious because this was supposed to be kind of a hit the ground running hire. To me, at least it seemed that way. I mean, this again, because this team, we're arguing that this team had talent. I mean, do we think that Jets team was better than a team with like a 22-year-old Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 24-year-old TJ Hawkinson?
Penei Sewell is a rookie. Or no, he wasn't there yet. Was he there yet?
No, because they finished.
No, he was there. No, but Sewell was there. Sewell was there.
Oh, he was there?
Sewell was a rookie. Yeah, because Sewell was a 21 pick. Because remember
right.
They picked him instead of or after Jamar Chase, because that was the whole. Remember, Sewell Chase was the argument for the Bengals, right?
That's right. So is that team better than this Jets team is the question you really have to ask yourself,
Well,
because
that's why
Aaron
I think you have
Glenn's
to let the year play
entire
out.
argument hinges on this.
That's why I think you have to let the year play out. Like, to me, like,
yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about firing him right now.
No, but I mean, like, I think, like, they can't look like this in January. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be really tough if they look like this in January, because, I think when we've seen the teams, like, how many one and dones have there been? Like, New England's won last year, right? They didn't show a lot of life at the end of the year, so I think, like, and this is like excluding the true dumpster fires, you know what I mean? Like Bill Belichick in North Carolina or Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, like, where it's like, oh my God, do we have to pull the plug now because we're going to poison the rest of the building, right?
Right. I mean, do you think it's far off though? I mean, again, you had Garrett Wilson and the head coach, like, Garrett Wilson going over and being like, "What the F, dude?" Before the halftime. Are we close? Like, is this starting to get?
I just think you have to let it play, like, because the other thing is, like, I will say, like, so there's two sides to this, and I think we talked about this too, right? Like, there's two sides to this, which is, like, one side of it is, like, Dan Campbell showed a lot of patience with him personally, right? With Aaron Glenn. And so, like, I can understand, like, that's where the part of it for Aaron Glenn will be, I'm going to be patient with my staff, right? But Dan Campbell also pulled the plug on the other side of the ball pretty quickly.
And
if you remember, one of those coordinators was young and doing it for the first time, and that was Glenn. And the other one was experienced and had done it before, and that was Anthony Lynn.
Yeah.
Right? And it's sort of the same situation with the Jets, where one of those coordinators is experienced in Wilkes, and the other one isn't in Tanner Engstrand.
Right.
So if you're Aaron Glenn and you're looking at it and you're like, well, this is the guy that I hired that was supposed to be ready to go out of the box. You know what I mean? Like, and I wasn't. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, I would look at that and I would say, I'm not sure. I like Steve Wilkes. When has he ever succeeded as a coordinator?
Let's see.
You could argue he was more suited to be a head coach than a coordinator. Very good position coach, good leader. Like, he got fired in San Francisco, and I would say, based on what I know, that was a justified hiring. They fired him out after a Super Bowl year. And then he doesn't have a lot of, he had, I think, 1 year as a defensive coordinator. And I'm trying to think now, he was the coordinator for 1 year after McDermott left, right? In Carolina. And then he got the Arizona job. So there's 1 year there.
He had two. So, okay. He's been a coordinator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years as a play calling defensive coordinator, according to Pro Football Reference. Essentially 2 top 10 seasons. 2018 in Arizona, when he was the head coach, and 2023 in San Francisco when he was the defensive coordinator.
In both cases, he got fired after the year.
Yeah, and the team was top 10 in net passing yards per attempt. The team was, in Carolina, when he was the DC/HC, they had a pretty good
this
rushing
is wild
defense.
when I'm looking at it. Honestly, not to cut you off.
No.
1 year as Panthers coordinator in 17. 1 year as the head coach in Arizona, 18. 1 year as the Browns coordinator in 19. 1 year as the Niners coordinator in 23.
And he has one top 10 season in points allowed.
And they were all, yeah.
And 2 in yards.
I don't know. Again, like, if you feel like you have to do something, I think that's where you make the move.
We'll see what happens.
That's a defense that was good under Robert Saleh. This is not like a young coach that you're investing in, right? Like, this is a guy who's supposed to be ready-made into the position. And, I think that they have Chris Harris on the staff, and Chris Harris is very well thought of. So if you have to do this, Chris Harris almost got the Green Bay DC job a couple of years ago. Matt LaFleur almost hired him.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Like, I think Chris Harris will be ready to go, So is that where you make the move to shake things up because you're not getting the level of play on that side of the ball that you would hope you would get.
Football season is in full swing, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. This week on Underdog, I'm a big Joe Flacco guy. Love the fact that he's coming back to rescue this Bengals offense. Played the best game at quarterback the Bengals have seen all year. I'm going higher on 1.5 touchdowns for my guy, Joe Flacco and the Bengals this weekend. Download the app today. Sign up with promo code MMQB to score $100 in bonus funds or entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code MMQB. Underdog. Make picks. Win money. If it bleeds, it leads. And we have one other story of this ilk to discuss.
Yep.
I mean, Broncos kind of pulled that one out, but that was not their finest hour either. 13-11 was the score of that one in London.
Yep.
The other one here, along a similar line, you keep pulling a similar thread. Chargers 29, Dolphins 27. The Dolphins are 1-5. And after the game, I have a theory on this, by the way.
Yeah.
Tua
God, the AFC is just bleeding out.
Woo! Tua Tagovailoa comes out.
And we'll get to the Patriots, and Buffalo's just fine. And so it looks like there's a gap now, and New England's back on the other side of that fence.
Yeah. But this is the thing. If you're Stephen Ross, so that's where I want to start, because I think Stephen Ross now needs to come to the forefront. He needs to talk, and he needs to be in that building, and he needs to start sorting through the wreckage. Because my take on what happened yesterday, and if you didn't see it, Tua Tagovailoa comes to the podium and basically says, we need accountability. We have all these players only meetings, and guys either aren't showing up or showing up late. And then no one is saying whether these meetings need to be made mandatory or not. So what he's done is effectively called out teammates and coaches for not making the meetings mandatory, and teammates for not showing up to the meetings, even though they weren't
Why
mandatory.
would the coaches but then you have Mike McDaniel come out and say, well, that's a players only meeting. Essentially, he was saying, what would I have to do with that? Right.
Right. And then
the guy who's calling the other players out's got a C on his chest.
Right. And so the whole thing, I agree that it looked the worst for Tua, but I have, you and I both during our career, we had the fun renegade journalism years, but we've also existed in we've also overlapped in a corporate environment. And there are times when you escalate the matter from this is something you can talk about with your immediate supervisor to this needs to go to the person in the big scary room at the end of the hallway. And we've both been in that big scary room. And I think that Tua has now escalated the conflict from, oh, this is something you can just talk about with your head coach, to, oh no, now the helicopter's got to land outside the building and that guy has to come and talk about it. Because if you're Stephen Ross, like, this is embarrassing, right? I mean, there's nothing short of it. I mean, and I love Mike McDaniel, and I thought that he was such a breath of fresh air for in coaching, but he has not plugged the leak here. Like, and now it's getting to the point where it's spilling over into like the quarterback, and whether the quarterback's right or wrong. And I'm with you that I think it reflects just as poorly on Tua as it does on Mike McDaniel. But regardless of whether or not that's the case, you're in a bad spot.
Well,
right?
That's the other part is, like, I mean, it stuck out to me because, like, and I know you wrote about this, but like, it stuck out to me because, we all knew about the players only meeting that happened after the opener, right? Which is like, whoa, like, what are they doing having one of these this early? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, what's the next step after that meeting? Generally it's people are going to lose their jobs. And now we find out that there's been multiple players only meetings, like they're happening regularly. And so is that another red flag?
Right.
It's just, I love Mike. I've known him forever. I think he's a really good football coach. I think, when things are going good, he's got a way of connecting with guys. He's got a way of getting the most out of guys. Guys will believe in him because he's going to give them the answers to the test. However, like, the question with him was always what happens when the bleep hits the fan.
Right.
And I just, in a situation where I think a football coach has to project strength, are we seeing that from him now?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not sure we are. And so, like, I think this requires, I want to stop short of saying, because I think like what happened in Vegas a couple years ago, where Mark Davis started talking regularly to the players and like kind of going around his coaches can be really destructive. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like that type of ownership, I don't think is great either, because you're really kicking the legs out from under. You're giving your players an appeals court, which like really kicks the legs from underneath your head coach. So you don't want to do that. Um, and especially like in that situation, Mark Davis, I mean, he made the decision to kneecap Josh McDaniels and to go to Antonio Pierce based on what three players thought. And two of those three players were gone within a year, you know? So like, I don't know that that's the way you want to manage the situation. But if you're Steve Ross, you have to have an artful way of finding out what's going on in your locker room. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
finding out with where your players are at with him, and finding out like, is this salvageable, or am I creating an environment now by letting this go over the next 2 or 3 months that is going to be really detrimental to the development of any young talent that I have on the roster? Because I do think that that's a point that's one reason where that's one place where I think it's justifiable to fire a coach in season.
So I remember, and I granted this only happened with 1 week left in the season. And I think you can do it without firing Mike McDaniel. But do you remember when Jeffrey Lurie fired Chip Kelly with a week left in the season because he wanted to use that week to conduct exit interviews? And then what happened? The core of that team won a Super Bowl 2 years later with the guy that they hired.
Right, but they did it.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. But you did it after you fired the coach. Like Jeffrey Lurie didn't go in there and start polling players about Chip Kelly. He did it after.
Right. But I think you're right, though. I think there's an artful way, because McDaniel is a talented play caller, and they actually had the run game going against the Chargers yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah, but it wasn't a disaster. But
No,
that Chargers team,
2-point loss.
I mean, that Chargers team was without Omarion Hampton and Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater and Quentin Johnston. And I mean, I think you give the Chargers a lot of credit. I mean, it's tough to blow a double-digit lead against a Chargers offense that's in that state.
Well, not if they have Ladd McConkey.
Or back, no, maybe. The Chargers blew the double-digit lead, right?
Yes.
And then sorry. These are long weekends for all of us.
No, but you're right. I mean, I think the point is, it's an interesting question. Can Stephen Ross find a way to figure out what's going on without interrupting the operation or making it seem like the fork has already been stuck in the whole thing? You know what I mean? Because again, I mean,
I think Mike McDaniel could wind up getting a second shot as a head coach and like making a lot of people in Miami look bad if so like that's where I think you have to figure out, is it salvageable? Because I do think that there's, Mike McDaniel's given you enough to work with there where it's like he's a pretty good coach. He was able to kind of pull Tua Tagovailoa's career out of the wreckage, and make something of that.
Yeah.
And, build an offense that was exciting and appealing for fans and get us into the playoffs. Like there's a lot of positive over the last, 3+ years that he's been there. It's just, I don't know whether or not, I don't know whether or not, like at this point it's salvageable based on where the locker room is at. And, I think the other thing is like, you have to look at here is they're very much at like an inflection point for the franchise where they've got a pretty hefty rebuild in front of them. They're going to have to decide what to do with some older players like, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb and, Tyreek Hill. I think the ship sort of sailed on him now. But if you look at all of that, like this is a natural point to ask the question, are these the guys that we want leading the rebuild?
Right. I mean, I don't know, man. I think that I think that there has to be, because, and I understand the Dolphin fan side of it, right? Because it's such a weird, it's such a weird thing, because you had Brian Flores go 10-6 and 9-8, and then that collapsed, and then you had Mike McDaniel go 11-6, 9-8, and 11-6, and then 8-9 and 1-5. So we're on the kind of the other end of this bell curve here. But I mean, this roster is not, it's not good. I mean, there has to be bigger questions that are asked. And maybe this is all I'm saying about the Tua thing is I think this is probably the thing that shines the bat signal that gets the helicopter landed. And now the owner's walking through the front door and saying, okay, now I gotta get in here. I gotta figure out what's going on. See what happens. But again, you made the point at the top, Albert, where it's like, Buffalo doesn't look like they're going anywhere. New England won a game, and we'll get to that in a second. They won the worst officiated football game I've ever seen, and it was.
I can't wait to get to that because I think I saw the worst flag I've ever seen thrown.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so let's get there. While we're tying some threads together, we'll knock out the whole dang AFC East. The Patriots beat the Saints 25-19, and this was just another pressing issue where the officials took away more than 100 yards of offense from New England. They took away a 61-yard touchdown. I made the comparison yesterday to what Stephon Diggs did that flagged offensive pass interference is like what my infant daughter does to me when she wants a bottle. Like that was how innocent the hit was.
But there were 2 OPIs.
Yeah. And the other one was just as bad.
Are you talking about the one where he caught the ball but had his hand on him, right?
No. The other one where he was at
the other one where he was like 70 yards away from the play.
Yeah.
And blocked the guy. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
We have an officiating problem.
I think so.
We have an officiating problem. I mean, I think this goes back to the league office, and there are points of emphasis on 15 different things every year, and the game is becoming too hard to officiate. There are too many cameras that are showing too many things where every single little thing is micromanaged. And I've always been an advocate of getting it right. But I mean, the minutia and the conferences, and it screws up the flow of the game. And then you have stuff like this that makes no sense in the world. Why? I mean, like Steph Diggs barely blocked the guy and it was 60 yards from the play. What are you doing throwing that flag? But I think like a huge part of it, Conor, is these guys are so worried about someone showing something on Twitter or someone showing something on Tuesday on First Take or whatever it is, like and showing them up. So they just throw flags on everything now. And it's infuriating to watch because it screws up the greatest game on the planet, And then, like the performative stuff from guys like Hockey, where it's like, all right, dude, get over yourself. Like, we don't need the 15-minute
You've been on this beat for a couple of weeks now, by the way.
I mean, can you elaborate? Son of Hockey and like that whole act is just, it kills me because it's like, we don't need the explanation. No one turned on the game to watch you. All right. So like, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you that you did a 20-week program of curls to get yourself ready for the season, get yourself get yourself prepared for the camera.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't need a full-on explanation of what what a chop block is. And it really does, like, it messes with the flow of the game. And like, this is where I actually, and college has its own problems with officiating. But with the stuff going straight to the booth in college, a lot of this stuff is handled without all the theatrics on the field. Yeah. I just, there's got to be. I mean, I'm at the point now where I think they've got to take officiating down to the studs and rebuild it. Because they've got all this technology, and instead of changing things, they're just sort of adding things on. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like you're building this big pile of things, right? Oh, well, we'll do this and we'll do that, and that's fine. Like, do stuff to improve it, but it just feels like you're adding and adding and adding and adding, and it's like now there's more to officiate. Which I've got sympathy for the officials. It's hard to see anything with a game that moves that fast on field level. And now you're giving them like 13 new things to look for every year. That's really hard. So if you want to help with the cameras, fine, but it can't be just on top of them trying to do that. Figure out a way to streamline it and do it better. Like, there's got to be a way to streamline all of this. Not to mention, like, I think there's probably a dozen guys on, at 345 Park that are sitting there with 12 screens and Twitter open over here, concerned about what the general public is thinking about what's happening and worried that it's going to wind up on some TV show on Monday.
They should be worried that it's going to be on the MMQB podcast, and it is. Now you're in hot water.
You thought you got away, but we got you.
We have our eye on everything here. Yeah, I think that.
And I have sympathy for them because it is hard to officiate. I don't have sympathy for the showman, but I
love this hockey beef that you have. It's so good. It's so.
It's just like too much, and it's like his dad did it, and it was kind of fun. Like it was kind of fun, like watching his dad, because his dad was like sort of over the top with it and whatever, and it almost felt like everybody was in on the joke. This just
remember,
feels
son.
Like
this is about us.
Huh?
Said, remember, son. This is about us.
But this is just like, I don't know. Like this one is like, this feels like a bad imitation of that. You know what I mean?
It does, and it's like anything else, right? Where. So the way that, and I'm not defending the structure of modern journalism, which is also flawed and has its own issues, but you and I are in the trenches covering a season and the biggest sport in America, and overhead there's a lot of stuff happening, and you can't have your eye on everything. There's 32 teams, there's thousands of players, and you have an editor or you have someone else in the background being like, hey, actually, did you see what's going on over here? Like, that's kind of interesting. Or, hey, you keep, going over here, but why don't you look at something like this over here? I mean, that's what we need. I mean, these officials need a hand on their shoulder, and they need a way for someone to almost like, because every game is a story.
Yep.
Help them kind of live edit the game because again, holding can be called on every play. Pass interference can be called on every play, but you have to pick the right spots. You have to make the calls in a way that is going to better the flow of the game and allow everybody to, so it's like you need somebody to take you out of the weeds and to be on headset to headset contact with you to just help you in the flow of that. And they just don't have that. They don't possess that right now.
I just think it's like minimizing officiating, not, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, how can we,
or go in the background like they did in the 70s and 80s. That's fine too. I don't care.
Right. Like, how do we use technology to streamline it? And like, it feels like technology is slowing it down and not speeding the game up when it should be speeding it up, right? Like, that's the whole idea of technology, is to make things more efficient, is to streamline things, is to get things moving faster. And, like, this is like, we already had like a high speed internet connection. And now this has sent us back to dial up, right. Where I don't need the conferences. I don't need the reviews. And I have sympathy for the officials who, I'm sure a huge part of this is like, they're out there trying to make heads and tails of something that's like a complete blur in front of them, with all these new emphasis and everything else that the league office puts on their plate, because there are people there that needed to justify their jobs. Right. So like, well, we need to make these changes to make the game better. It's like, no, you really didn't need to do that. And what you wind up having is an official out there, again, who's trying to make sense of all of this. And he feels like he's got Big Brother looking over his shoulder the whole time. And that's why I think the flags are getting thrown nonstop.
I agree. It's gotta stop. Mike Vrabel said after the game, I don't have an answer for you there. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's, that about says,
I mean, I like the OPI on Stephon Diggs is legitimately like maybe the worst call I've ever seen. And like, what was even worse than that was the Denver Philly situation last week.
Oh yeah.
Where they did the grounding. Remember that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, where, for people who missed it, and I hopefully I'm not screwing this up, but it was like they didn't call grounding. Then they had like a 40-second conference. Then they dropped the flag. Right. So then it is grounding, and they give the explanation. And then all of a sudden there's no explanation, and Denver's back in 3rd and 6, which means New York.
Never mind. Yeah. But you can't, because it's the same thing, right? It's like, and it's like, I have a hard time writing about a game that I haven't watched from the beginning, right? And I'm not saying that New York is not watching all these games from the beginning, but they're like New York headquarters. They have all the games going on at once, right? And so it's kind of hard to stay dialed into everything at the same time. Like you have to understand I mean, that's different. That's like a rule issue, right? That's just understanding the letter of the law, but it's also like a flow thing, I think, too.
Right.
It's just like these guys just don't have the in-stadium help. But all right,
Sky Judge.
Again, please.
We'll have a bake
please,
sale
please,
for you, Roger.
Please,
Sky
please.
Judge.
I know. It's crazy.
Just put a guy up there and like let the play clock legislate it, where if it's obvious and it needs to be overturned, you'll figure it out within the context of the play clock. If the play clock runs out, it wasn't obvious anyway, the game goes up.
Bingo. All right, let's run through the rest of these games. Give me a quick takeaway because I feel like we tackled the big ones and got them off the bat here. Chiefs 30, Lions 17. Yes, I mean Kansas City, like we expected, looks great. Patrick Mahomes had 4 total touchdowns. Now Rashee Rice comes back, and I think we're all about to be pretty annoyed at how good this team is. And
so I think the Chiefs are like, now they have like 3 pretty manageable games before they play Buffalo. I think that's what it is, right? Like if you look at it, and I'm going to be justified for calling everybody idiots for doubting them. Yeah. So they have Raiders, Commanders, and then Bills. So I think it's fair to say it should be 5-3 going into the Bills game.
I thought Kansas City's defense was what really blew me away in this one, and their secondary, which was kind of a supposed weakness, but I think we're having a lot of these younger guys or these guys that were in the background come up and really, Jared Goff was kind of rendered to be kind of a check down artist in this game. Didn't have a lot of deep options, didn't have a lot of stuff down the field. And this is what Spags can do. I mean, just like Andy Reid, just like Matt Nagy transforms over the course of a season, the defensive coordinator evolves too. And I think we're seeing start of that. That was and
they
whatever you want to call it, statement win, whatever.
And they get Rashee Rice back next week.
Yeah. I mean, game over. See them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Sorry, everybody.
The Lions, this is tough, right? I mean, they have these games from time to time.
Right.
Like, wasn't it the Packers game, I think, that they lost last year and Brian Branch got ejected? And I think that there's just sometimes they just hit a wall. They run into a wall. And with their physical play style, with the way that they kind of run things, and they're an all-in team all the time, sometimes it works against you a little bit. It's just there's a downside to everything. And I think that was the issue. They just kind of ran into a little bit of a brick wall last night, which is, I don't know.
They'll be fine.
Really gonna say
they'll be fine. They're 4-2. I mean, like that division, I think, is going to remain winnable for them. I didn't see a whole lot that made me doubt where they're at. Like there wasn't like a point in that game where it was like, oh yeah, there's the deficiency. They're going to be fine.
I agree. We have the 49ers and Buccaneers. I wrote about it. This is the Baker Mayfield MVP game. I mean,
I love the Ted Johnson like thing. Did you see that after the game?
No. What was that?
So Tez Johnson, like he has a long touchdown there, right? The rookie from Oregon has the long touchdown, and they started chanting, and the whole crowd started chanting MVP. And so
he didn't think it was for him, did he?
He thought it was for him.
And
he was great after the game because he said like he goes, yeah, man, I thought they were chanting for me, and then Sterling Shepard comes over to me. He's like, dude, you're crazy. They ain't chanting for you.
Oh, that's so great. Todd Bowles told you after the game, Albert, that he's making more adjustments. He's got a maturity level with his own play calling that I think has evolved and helped him survive one coordinator change to the next coordinator change to the next coordinator change.
It's crazy when you think about like when I added it up last night just to like kind of look at like all the different guys he's had to work with. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of turnover and. I think Baker, it's just, you add up like what they were missing yesterday, right? Which was they're without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They lose Ibuka in game. No Luke Gadecki or Cody Mock on the offensive line. It's 2 starting offensive linemen. No Bucky Irving, right? It's starting to get to the point where it's like, you look at some of the things they've dealt with earlier in the year when they didn't have Tristan Wirfs, right? Like, it's just, they've had a revolving door. And part of that is due to the depth of the roster that Jason Light and his crew have built there. But I think on top of it too, it's a quarterback who is now able to figure it out, even when he's got less around him. He's a very legitimate MVP candidate, I think.
I mean, right now, the betting favorite is Josh Allen, but I would argue that Baker and whatever. Okay, so Buffalo has kind of pared down their premium receiving talent, however you want to say it, to let Josh build organically. But I think that's different than what Baker Mayfield is dealing with, because again, yesterday, no Ibuka for half of the game. No Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans, no Bucky Irving. You've written about the offensive line, and while Jason Light has provided him with good backups, like all the backups are good. Okay, yep. So let's not throw that out there. But if this were Josh Allen being helicoptered into that situation, we would have already mailed him the trophy. And right or no?
You're right. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
And I think that Baker especially is due. I'm never a fan of overcorrections, and because I think that it causes problems, but Baker kind of went from, he can, he'll battle with Kyle Trask for the starting job, and maybe we'll see what he can do, to, he's a top 10 quarterback. But there was never the switch flipped. And then there was never here's your award for all the growth and all, he's like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL now. And I think you have to put him in the front and center of the MVP talk.
Right. I mean, I think it's like it's almost like that Alex Smith thing, like Alex Smith went through a lot of change when he was younger.
Yeah.
And then wound up in good situations with Jim Harbaugh and with Andy Reid. And he would tell you after all of it, there was a benefit for having gotten knocked around as a former number 1 overall pick and having to learn all these different systems, and then having my career, sort of thrown into a blender. And I think Baker's getting the same benefit, only Baker, I think, is more talented than Alex Smith, and I think that's the part that people miss with Baker is
there's so much talent there.
People look at him as the 2-time walk-on, right?
Right.
And I don't know how to explain just how impressive it is that he went, when he was 18 years old, as a true freshman walk-on, he won a starting quarterback job at a power conference school. You know what I mean? You don't do that if you don't have talent. And then he bet on himself and transferred to Oklahoma and beat out all these, walked on again and beat out all these scholarship players at a true blue blood. And then he turned himself into the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
And these things don't happen if you don't have ability. You know what I mean? And I think so often people have sort of looked at him like he's Rudy, and he's not. He is a really, really talented athlete who's got great spatial awareness, who understands the game and has a howitzer of an arm. And I think, wasn't there that Josh Allen? Did you ever see that Josh Allen clip where someone asked who has the strongest arm in the league, and Josh Allen's answer was Baker, and whoever was interviewing him laughed at Josh, and Josh was like, "What are you talking about? What are you laughing about?"
I mean, I'm sure.
And I don't know if he has the strongest arm in the league. That might be overstating it, but this is a talented player, and who is now coming of age, and who was in really effed up situations when he was younger. And I'm just telling you, just as far as what comes into your phone, right? There's a lot of people who've been around Baker over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years that I know really well that are that's what we thought he was going to be. You know what I mean? Look at what he's becoming. And I think it's a credit to him for being able to withstand all that he withstood early in his career. I mean, God, can you imagine the regret if you're Cleveland right now? Holy crap.
No, I mean, don't get me started on that. I'll do another hour on that.
Cleveland could have kept 3 first-round picks. I mean, holy crap. Conor, I think you're the right person to write that what if story. Can you imagine?
I mean, good God. I'll just leave it with this. And so Baker Mayfield leads the league in EPA when he scrambles. So think about that. We are in a league with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Now, Lamar Jackson's hurt, but even you would assume that Lamar Jackson is so good in those moments that even in the games that he did start, he would have an outsized impact. I mean, we're unfathomable how good he's playing. Yeah, right. Let's move on to Bengals and Packers. Interesting couple notes in this one. So the Packers won 27-18. Mm-hmm. Bengals looked better on offense.
For sure.
But also, like, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, they looked better on offense than they have in the second half of that game. They looked better on offense than they have at any point this season, period. Like, and I'm not saying that Joe Flacco is better than Joe Burrow. I'm just saying that at no point this season did the Bengals look better offensively than they did in the second half of this game against Patriots. Or the Packers.
I think the trade for Flacco like created some urgency for them.
Yeah,
it feels that way at least. Like, okay, like now we actually have a chance. Now we have a fighting chance. I come out of this one with a higher opinion of the Bengals, which is like a weird thing to say after they lose that.
No, I do too. 100%.
But I think the Bengals have a chance to give Joe Burrow a chance to get in the playoffs, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I think it's, again, like I think there's the intangible shot in the arm that they get from making the trade in the first place, which it's taking guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Chase Brown and Mike Gesicki and Andre Savis and all those guys like right on down the line and saying like, okay, like now this was a hopeless situation. It's not hopeless anymore. We have a chance. Yeah. I think Flacco did a good job of getting rid of the ball quickly. We talked about his mobility. He was only sacked once. And I think that's what you and I talked about last week. It's like when you trade for a guy like this, it's not just about how he moves in the pocket. It's about how he processes. He didn't have the weapons in Cleveland that he has in Cincinnati. Guys are going to uncover quicker. He's going to be able to get the ball out faster. Yep. And I think that can mitigate some of their offensive line issue. Jake Browning was not seeing it fast enough. That was part of the problem. I don't know. I like, so right now the Bengals are what? They are 2-3, I believe, right? 2-4. Okay. So now we can play the schedule game with them and you start to look at it. Can they win at home on Thursday night against the Steelers? I think they've got a fighting chance. Then they've got the Jets and Bears. So if they can scratch out a win over the Steelers, they've got a chance to get to 5-4.
You can never, ever put a win on the schedule like 3 weeks in advance if you're an NFL head coach.
I know.
But if you're Zach Taylor, don't you look at that Jets game and be like, all right, we got that one. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that, just that team. I mean, I think that they are at this point
it's the old Lou Brown thing. You remember from Major League? And that's what they call a winning streak.
Oh, man.
We got the Steelers this week. If we can beat the Steelers, we got the Jets next week. And that's what we call a winning streak. I think that was the line. I probably butchered that, but
no, it's good. I like that. On the Packers side,
that movie is the most quotable movie of all time. Like it's got so many great lines in it.
It is. Packers offensive line was fantastic in this game. That Josh Jacobs touchdown, I think the one that put them up 17-7. It was like a 15-yard run where literally every Bengals player was blocked all the way to the end zone. And after the game, Josh Jacobs said that was the best blocked run play he had ever been a part of. I think the Packers got their kind of a rotation in there for and gave Jordan Love
for 153 yards.
Yeah. And gave Jordan Love time, and Jordan Love made that just killer throw to Golden at the end of that game.
Yeah, to Golden to win the game.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think like what you're seeing with the Packers now, they had like just the first month of the season must have felt like such a blur for the guys in that building. You know what I mean? Like you've got the sugar high of the 2 wins in 5 days to start the season. It's like, all right, like now we're for real. And then you have the crash in week 3. And then you have the very weird tie and Parsons return to Dallas in week 4. And then you have the natural reset. And I think maybe this becomes, for them, at least internally, the representation of who they are, right? It's like, okay, like we can go out and we can put together a good performance against a good team. And, this wasn't about one player or another having an off the charts performance. I like, like you look at like, I'm just like looking at the numbers here, 7 different receivers, 6 of them were targeted multiple times, and Jordan Love only threw the ball 26 times. They run the ball really effectively. They're able to stop the run on defense. Flacco moved the ball. But I think this is like probably a good representation of what the Packers actually are after a really wild first month of the season.
Yeah. Still confident in Green Bay. A nice win for them. That was a potential buzzsaw situation. Titans Raiders. Raiders win 20-10. I'm the only thing in my mind is like, are the Titans the worst team in the NFL, and the Cardinals just had a historic collapse a week ago, or are the Jets? It just doesn't. It doesn't look good. And it still doesn't look good. This wasn't necessarily a huge get right game for the Raiders. I mean, Ashton Jenney looks great, but it's 75 carries, 23 carries, 75 yards, touchdown. Geno Smith 17 to 23 for 174. I don't think this quiets necessarily any of the problems that they've had. But
I think it's just like look, they're just from a roster standpoint not there. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just have to call it what it is. The offensive line, and this is, to me, you see so many representations around the NFL. Like I've heard people say like the left tackle is not as important as the left tackle is not as important anymore as it used to be. I just don't buy that at all. Like there are too many examples of teams having the left tackle in place and being just okay everywhere else and being fine on the offensive line versus being like good in other spots in the line and just not having it at left tackle and being a dumpster fire. And I think the Giants are probably the best encapsulation of that. Once Andrew Thomas got back in the lineup for the Giants, you know what? They look pretty competent up front, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
And so like this is a Raiders offensive line that's without Colton Miller right now. I think that's an absolute killer for them because they're very young everywhere else on that front. The defense, I think, is still wafer thin. They've got a lot of work to do in building that roster up. I don't think this is a Pete Carroll problem. I don't think this is a John Spytek problem. I don't think this is a program problem. I don't even think it's really a Geno Smith problem. I just think it's where they are. I think this was always going to be a bit the sort of build that was going to take time. And I said at the beginning of the year, like, I think they're one of those teams like where we talked about it with like the Lions in 2021, right? They're one of those teams where it's like the roster was such where really the goal for this year is to be that team that's a pain in the ass to play at the end of the year. And I think that they can still get there.
Your boy Sean Payton had the simple equation that helped him draft Bo Nix. What was it, like the negative plays thing?
Yeah.
If you combine Geno Smith's sacks, interceptions, and fumbles this season, it's a lot. It's the most in the NFL.
Yep.
So I wonder if Sean Payton's like, see, I told you that's why you're 2-4. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't think the Raiders are the 8-9 team I had hoped they would be. Maybe they're the 6-11, 7-10 team that I want them to be, but we'll see. The Rams beat the Ravens 17-3. This is a little bit of a bummer for me because I thought that this was going to be one of those ass backwards games where Baltimore fell into a win. They started the game with 6 straight runs for Derrick Henry. They were going right at the heart of the Rams defense. And then they got the turnover right after that where they stripped Matthew Stafford. And I was like, okay, here we go. But it's just not functional without Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson is such a unique player that I think one of their coaches explained to me once, he sees the football field like no other quarterback in the NFL, period. And so he can uncover completions. He can uncover opportunity where there just is not, and nobody else sees it. And when you're used to that, when you're used to calling that, when you're used to blocking that, when you're used to running in that offense, I think that it gets taken for granted. The amount of additional yards that he picks up,
The Snoop Huntley thing was interesting too, because I think the offense is built so specifically to Lamar and to maximize Lamar and to get the most out of Lamar that you can't really do that with one quarterback because there's nobody like him. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, all right, well, Snoop Huntley's in there. Let's see what this is. And you can kind of see the running part of it, but you're held back in the passing game. And then Cooper Rush obviously is the opposite of that. So I just think it's like, I think it's a result of like how specific to Lamar Jackson that offense has become, which is the right way to build it, because you're trying to maximize your best player. And Lamar Jackson is, without question, their best player. All due respect to other great players in that roster like Derrick Henry and Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith and on. But the downside of that is when you do build it really specifically to one player, when you take that player out, the whole thing kind of falls down.
It does, but I was confused. I mean, Cooper Rush,
and I think like that exists in Cincinnati too, like to some degree, like where so like the offense in Cincinnati has become very complex, which I think is why Flacco was such a good fit for as a trade target, was because they do a lot of stuff that's really that puts a lot on the quarterback, you know, Flacco, and because Joe can handle it. And so they need somebody else like that to be able to step in when he goes out and in that case, Browning couldn't be that. And in this case, it's very hard to find somebody who can replicate what Lamar can do.
I do wonder if
So are they dead now?
The Ravens? No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No. I mean, yes, 1-5 is not great, but I mean, we could do it. We could play a schedule game, and I can still get you to 9 or 10 wins. And in the AFC North, that might be enough. I mean, the Steelers are not running away with this one, folks. I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, I've seen this movie before. You know, I've seen how old people are in December. Like, you know, my body hurts, and I'm sure most of their bodies hurt. And it's October, and I'm struggling right now. But right. I mean, like, and I'm just like riding a Peloton 4 days a week, you know, and I'm having a tough time. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that this team is running away with it. I think this is going to be an absolute log jam. And just like with Burrow, you just want to give Lamar a crack at this. You want to get him in a spot where there's one game left to push you into the tournament. And I still think that they're there. And I think what they need to do.
I mean, that whole premise that we've applied to Burrow in Cincinnati, which like every chance you have to enter the tournament with that guy quarterback is gold. Same premise.
Got to take it. But I do wonder this, and this is kind of my last thought on this, is what happened with Cooper Rush. And Cooper Rush played well for Mike McCarthy. He was a Mike McCarthy guy. Mm-hmm. But does that illuminate just a little bit because again, the backup quarterback thing is so weird. Like, some teams treat it like sacrosanct, and it's like, I have to have the best backup quarterback in the NFL. Some teams don't. And I'm not saying that the Ravens didn't, but he was an odd stylistic fit for this offense. Can we agree with that?
And I would agree with that. And I think it's like, it was interesting when they signed him because it was sort of counter to what they've generally done. They've generally had like the guys who are like, I guess you'd categorize them as the quote unquote option quarterbacks that have been behind Lamar there, you know? And I think the idea of that is obvious. It's like, you are going to upset the balance of your offense a lot less if you have somebody who has a skill set. It's not going to be the same as your starting quarterback, but one that'll require less adjustment when that guy gets in. And I do think, like, when you go to somebody like Cooper Rush, after having Lamar in there, that requires a lot of adjustment. And that requires leaning on parts of your game, you know, in pass protection, from your receivers. The run game looks a lot different. You know what I mean? Like, when you don't have that extra gap that Lamar provides. Like, Lamar's mere presence, right, out there for Derrick Henry, Lamar basically creates an extra gap and changes the math. And so that's going to change things in the passing game. Like, that's going to change how they're able to cover you. That's going to change what Derrick Henry's looking at. So when you go back to a traditional quarterback after having that, like, it's going to change the dynamic for your offense. And so it's hard to replicate what you had there. I think it does give credence to the idea that maybe Snoop Huntley was the right answer in plain sight all along.
Might have been. Let's move
And
on
now it feels
to
like maybe it was like a little too late. Like, and you're trying to middle it now, and it didn't really work.
let's go over to Seattle, where the Seahawks beat the well, I guess Jacksonville, where the Seahawks beat the Jaguars 20-12. I saw through this one all along. I didn't buy into the Jaguars hype just yet. It's a good team. It's not a great team, at least not right now. One fascinating stat that I need to throw at you. Do you know, Albert, what Trevor Lawrence's career record is? So he's played 22 games for the Jacksonville Jaguars in which they did not get a takeaway. How many of those games has he won?
0.
He's 0-22 without a takeaway. And listen, this is no.
That's a weird stat.
It's kind of a cool stat though.
Yeah,
My favorite one was what was it? It was last week, and this had nothing to do with the Jaguars. It was oh God, it was who played the Bills last week? Who played the Bills last week?
The Patriots.
It was the Patriots. Oh wait, it was the Bills. Maybe who played the Bills?
Saints, was that they played Saints the week before that? I think, right? Because
there was a quarterback.
They screwed around with the Saints and like let the Saints remain in the game.
There was a quarterback. I forget who it was, but it was Michael Penix. Who did the Falcons play last week? I forget what it was. So the stat anyway
being tested. Hold on.
Was like Michael Penix.
I have my cheat sheet here.
Michael
the
Penix
Falcons played the Falcons had a bye last week, Connor. Sorry.
There was a game where it was like Michael Penix is 0-4 against teams who have scored more than 7 points. It's just like the best stat ever. I love these like
Commanders. They beat the Commanders 34.
Maybe that's who it was. They were 0-4 against teams. He was 0-4 against teams who'd scored more than 7 points. And I think it's Tom Curran used to have it on his Twitter bio. It's like you could like dry humping the stats or kind of like reading the sheet instead of listening to the music.
That was the Aqib Talib quote, right?
Yes. Yeah. So some of these stats are silly, but they are kind of fun.
The quote for people, it is dry humping stats is people who dry hump stats probably prefer sheet music to listening to the song or something like that, right? Wasn't that it?
I think so.
Hold on. I need to look this up now from the great philosopher Aqib Talib.
I will.
And Curran using that quote. Curran using it in his Twitter bio is perfect if you know Tom. Hold on.
I will filibuster while you're looking this up and just say this. Seattle.
People that dry hump stats to make a point probably prefer reading sheet music to hearing the song.
It's a great line. It really is. Seattle is second in the NFL right now in point differential. And I want to point out the fact that Seattle has played the 49ers, who have a winning record, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a winning record, the Saints, Saints are the Saints, the Arizona Cardinals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their schedule so far has not been easy. They've had an excellent schedule. They've played teams at their hottest, and they are second in the NFL in point differential, which means two things. They have blowout potential on offense, and the defense is doing its job. The only two games they lost by a combined 6 points, a field goal in each game. I am firmly they are in Super Bowl contention to me. And I can't see otherwise. They demonized Jacksonville yesterday. They were all over Trevor Lawrence. I think it was, how many sacks was it? Let me get it up in front of me. It was an astronomical number. It was 7 sacks for a loss of 44 yards, but then 17 quarterback hits.
That's crazy.
And
that's crazy.
I have a little bit of beef with, so ESPN tracks the quarterback hits on the live box score.
DeMarcus Lawrence had 5.
Yeah.
2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. Byron Murphy had 4 quarterback hits. Uchenna Nwosu had 4 quarterback hits. It's pretty good.
And I think ESPN, and I'm not begrudging, I mean, this is a hard thing to do, I mean, whatever. But they miss quarterback hits sometimes. Like Baker Mayfield they only said he got hit once yesterday. Go back and watch that game and tell me that Baker Mayfield only got hit once yesterday. That's not the case at all. He was roughed around a little bit. So, I don't think that anything is different after this game. I still think Jacksonville's on an upward trajectory, but doesn't it show you a little bit, Albert, how much this team was depending on those extra possessions that they got from Campanelli's defense, right?
Yeah, and I would say this about Seattle. I think Seattle's real. I think
Yeah,
Seattle.
they're a
I think
Super Bowl team.
Seattle, like felt this way before the year. Seattle, through like all the capital they got in the Russell Wilson trade, had like a really good young core, and they were like Green Bay this way, where I think a lot of where they go is dependent on how many very good players can elevate to becoming great. And I think we're seeing a lot of guys become great players now, right? Like Charles Cross at left tackle is already there. Is Sam Darnold becoming a great player now? Maybe not, but I think he's elevating. He's elevating again and showing what happened last year wasn't a fluke. Jackson Smith and Jigba might be what? I mean, he's on pace to break the single season receiving yard record.
Yeah,
like with 6 games in the books, right? So Jackson Smith and Jigba with DK Metcalf gone looks like a top 5 or 10 receiver in the league. AJ Barner's a legitimate tight end. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet both look better at running back, right? Like wasn't their best day yesterday. Byron Murphy is a force as a young player on defense, right? Witherspoon didn't play yesterday, but Witherspoon I think is like one of these guys like where you look at him and like that's a foundation, that could be a foundation piece of a championship defense. You just start to look at it and it's like all of these young players are ascending and getting better. And I look at it like this team's really good now. Like you look at the number of 24, 25, 26-year-olds on that team. Are they going to be better in December and January than they are now? I think it stands to reason that injury permitting, they will be. I'm buying stock in the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks could win that division.
Hell yeah. I totally agree. I've been saying that they're a Super Bowl team for the last 3 weeks now. I don't deny it. I think Mike McDonald's one of the best coaches, period, not just best young coaches, because I was going to qualify it. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL right now, and he's got a powerhouse staff, and you see what can happen. I have one note, Albert, on the Panthers beating the Cowboys 30-27. Panthers crawl back to 3-3. They're 3-0 at home. Rico Dowdle just beat the piss out of this Cowboys.
Rico Dowdle revenge game.
Have you seen?
I will admit that I didn't enter week 6 thinking about a Rico Dowdle revenge game, but here we are.
Here we are. Did you see the controversy? So I have a little bit of lockjaw right now, and I'm going to mispronounce some stuff. I can't open my mouth all the way, which I'm sure people at home are like, "Thank God," that maybe he'll stop talking. But I'm playing hurt. The 2 weeks ago, the Panthers fan podcast Meow Mix. Did you see this?
Yeah, retired. Yeah,
retired. Very, very Fireman Ed kind of move there. I thought little attention grabby. And this is from, do you remember David Ely?
Yeah.
David Ely from the NFL, Panthers fan extraordinaire, digital content editor for NFL Network, texted me yesterday with a very valuable nugget, which is that the Panthers are undefeated since the retirement of the Meow Mix podcast.
Is the Meow Mix podcast coming back?
You can't come back now, right? How bad would that look?
Yeah.
You got to you stepped down. This would be like you stepped down. You cited that I needed to spend time with my family, and I can't put all this effort into the Panthers. I need to focus.
But now the cats are back,
and now the mix is meowing, and you can't just walk back into it. Hee-haw. I'm just saying you can't walk the podcast game. We just got to keep going, baby. We can't stop. We got to keep going. The Carolina Panthers, though, I don't know. Do you think, are they real? Did they get the Dolphins and the Cowboys?
That's relative. Like I would say for them to, I think it's a great credit to Dave Canales after like with where they were in the middle of that Dolphins game, which I think that was like, what was it, 17-0 at one point in that game, right? And they had just gotten walloped by the Patriots in Foxborough. To be able to pull yourself off the mat, come back, win that game against Miami, and then beat the Cowboys at home, and you know who they have next, right?
Right. So that's what I wanted to ask. Let's play a little schedule game, okay?
Yep.
We have at Jets, so good for them. Congratulations to Dave Canales and that staff. And then, so let's say you're 4-3.
Congratulations. Okay. I think it would be the first time over 500 of the Dave Canales era too, probably, right? I think
it'd be the first time over 500 in like, I don't think they've been over 500 in a long time, right? Was Matt
I
Rule
don't
over
know.
500 at one point?
I don't
Maybe.
know. Go to my research department here and ask.
Okay, but hold on very quickly. Let's just play the
You can buy
schedule
me
game.
some time, right?
Yeah. Okay, so they have the Jets. So let's say you're 4-3 after that. Okay.
Right.
Then you have the Buffalo Bills. Then you have the
Probably
Green Bay
lost.
Packers. Okay. I'm not even going to say you're going to split those. Maybe you do. I don't know. Then you have the Saints. So again, I think that you could come out of this. Let's just say worst case scenario: 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, 5-5. You could be 5-5 going on the road on November 16th to Atlanta. And then you got Sam. Now, the end of this season is a little bit of a toughie. Then you have the 49ers. Then you have the Rams. Then you have a bye. Then you have at New Orleans. And I would think that they would probably split with the Saints. I think that's a fair thing to say because the Saints are not as bad as everyone's making them out to be. Then you
The
close
Saints
the
are
season.
scrappy. I think the Saints are a perfect example of what fans don't pay enough attention to, which is the lines of scrimmage. The Saints have a very good offensive line and a solid veteran defensive line, and that's enough to keep you in a lot of games.
Yeah,
Like it won't. It doesn't mean you're gonna go 12-5, but I think what that does, even if you're deficient in other areas, which they are, it is going to it's gonna allow you to keep games from getting out of control and put you in give you a chance to win some of these. Like kept them in the Buffalo game, kept them in the game against New England yesterday. By the way, the Carolina Panthers last time they were over 500 was in 2021, which would have been Matt Rule's second season there. So it's 4 years ago. They started 3-0 and then lost 4 in a row and haven't been over 500 since.
Matt Rule's about to do a press conference today where he says he has no interest in the Penn State job while he's taking the Penn State job. So
I guess I have to say it. I will not be the Penn State coach.
I'll do it.
I did want to get Scranton's own opinion on James Franklin at some point. We can save that for the end.
Scranton is, I'll just say this very quickly.
That's
Scranton,
Penn State country, right? Like that's
Scranton is Penn State country for sure.
Scranton, so you must have been, I know you're a Notre Dame fan, but you must have been surrounded by Penn State people there when you're growing up, right?
Scranton is hugely Catholic, and then the rest of it is just full of dopes, and the dopes root for Penn State and the Catholics root for, no, I'm kidding. I love everybody there. Penn State fans treated James Franklin the way that Steelers fans treat Mike Tomlin. Plain and simple, right? Yeah. James Franklin is winning there, and I think Penn State's just starting to get, they're just a little bit behind the pack in terms of that perennial, perpetual Power 5 conversation, and whether it's kids don't want to go to state college. I don't know what it is, right?
Did my alma mater get him fired? He's 1-10 against Ohio State.
I mean, I just like, who are you going to get? But I don't know. That's my complaint about it.
I think it's. I'll tell you who I would hire if I were them. Not to turn this into a college football podcast. I'd probably hire Matt Campbell from Iowa State.
He was on the show. He was on Pat Forty's shortlist.
Yeah.
So Pat knows what he's talking about. He's plugged in.
Pat will have all that covered on the Others Receiving Votes podcast, which is off to a flying start. I know Shelby's producing that one too.
Shelby's doing great. One day it's like Matt Damon on what is it? Is it Jimmy Kimmel? Like he never has Matt Damon on. Like one day I promise we're going to have Pat Forty on. I keep saying that, and I know that we're going to have
we should do that this week. The Belichick thing has kind of settled, so now we got a good chance to kind of take a step back and dive right in on all of that.
Get some good Jordan coverage. Steelers 23, Browns 9. I got a couple thoughts on this one. I am worried that the Browns are going to get Dillon Gabriel killed before the end of the season.
Right.
It just doesn't look right, and I know that this might be kind of a meat shield
there are
situation.
There are a lot of people on television who are rooting for that outcome, I would say.
But like, don't you have the wherewithal to see what you're like? He was sacked 6 times. And let's see, he was hit 16 times. My God. I mean, Nick Herbig just absolutely blew this guy up. TJ Watt hit him 3 times. Jalen Ramsey blitzed from the secondary a couple times in this game and just absolutely knocked this poor kid out. And he's not going to make it a full season, Albert. And I'm not rooting for this. I just don't think he's in a good spot there.
All right. So there's going to be a lot of conversation about this. You cannot win games if you have Dillon Gabriel throwing 52 times. All right.
Every time someone says how many attempts he had, I laugh. I don't know. It's crazy.
And it's actually not 52. It's 58 because he was sacked 6 times. 58.
Cheapers.
It almost looks fake looking at it. You know what I mean? Like, and I love Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees. I think he's got great potential as a coordinator and all of that. But I mean, holy crap! Like against that defense, with those rushers, with the depth that they have in pass rushers, and you give those guys a shot to pin their ears back. And I'm like looking at it now. TJ Watt had 3 hits to the quarterback. Jalen Ramsey had 2 hits in the quarterback.
Yeah.
Herbig, Jack Sawyer's starting to get into that mix. Alex Highsmith is back. It's like, on what planet is that the right game plan when you just had to trade for Cam freaking Robinson to play left tackle? Yeah.
I don't know.
And like, again, like, what's going to happen now is a bunch of people are going to take Dillon Gabriel's performance in a vacuum as if he's a tennis player, right? It's just a one-on-one sport. They see he's not good enough. Shador couldn't do better than this.
You do sound like someone from Cleveland. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's probably all moot anyway, because I don't think their quarterback for 2026 is on the roster right now. But I would not be surprised if we eventually see Deshaun Watson playing quarterback for them this year.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah. But we had that. We talked about that, right? Like, I don't know. I personally feel like you still have a chance to take a free look at Deshaun Watson. Why not?
When is he going to be ready to play?
So I know I have to check back in on this, because I know like the thought was late October, early November would he be cleared. That doesn't mean he can play then. That doesn't mean he's like, they're going to put him out there then. But I know that was sort of the target date. I got to check back in on that.
I mean, I guess it makes more sense, right? You would want maybe a 3-game sample size on him before you totally shut the door on it, right?
Yeah. So anyway, like the hope I had for the Browns, like it was shaken in this one. Like this was just not good. This felt like, I mean, like Rodgers looked good here. This did have the feel to me of like the Steelers had it like sort of in third gear. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, we know we got to play on Thursday night. So like, let's just kind of like ride this one out and get ourselves healthy and rested and ready to go for Thursday against the Bengals.
Browns fans are so like depraved, and for multiple reasons, but you see the tweets now that are being like, Deshaun Watson in his last 3 starts, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 in, like, if we just hang around here a little bit, it's like, guys, just put your hopes out to pasture. It's not that kind of situation.
I think I honestly think like there's like, I mean, I even like I like the Tyson Campbell trade. I think that like I like the idea of getting a number 2 corner at that rate, like guy who's got that sort of talent, like, and he hasn't been perfect, but like I do think like you look at like the totality of where the Browns are and where they're going to be coming out of the year. I think there's reason for a lot of optimism based on the way they drafted this year and what they have with the 2 first-round picks next year. But you're going to have to ride out a bunch more afternoons like this one to get there.
Yeah. I'm just sick of like, and I know this is like an offhand comment and then I'm going to move on, and it's not fair because it's sort of a little bit of a drive-by, but I'm just sick of like clapping and being like, the Browns are doing so many smart things, and then they just never make the playoffs. And then they trade for quarterbacks and they just completely blow the thing up over and over again and get to continue to experiment with all this high draft capital. But that's neither here nor there. Sorry.
That's the old Browns fan in you coming out.
That's the old Browns fan of me. I know I had to stomp it down. And I tell you, we went to Bengals, and you and Mitch were so sweet because you let my son pick. Well, you didn't. My son picked our new team, and he picked the Bengals because of the stripes. But then he's actually been watching football with me, and he's like, Dad, I don't like the Bengals anymore. He said, we're Giants fans now, and he's all in on Dart and Scatterbo. Like he's so.
So does he have like friends at school that are Giants fans that are influencing him?
No, because he's 4, so he doesn't. His friends are like, what is football? Like, there's no thought, there's no like, and he will watch, because I think they played on Thursday night and it was really exciting. And then I think we watched, maybe it was Dart's first game together, and I think he was really sort of getting into it. So I don't know. We're
Big
up in the air.
guy.
Yeah, I guess I root for him while he's root for Cam Scatterbo while he's healthy. I mean, not to be a dick, but it's like he is throwing himself in harm's way. Anyway, last one here: Colts 31, Cardinals 27. Arizona played better than I thought they would, given the John Gannon situation from last week. Jacoby
Can
Brissett,
I ask a big picture question here?
Sure.
Are you gonna
wait? Are you gonna? I don't know if I think you're gonna ask what I was gonna ask you. Go. Let me see.
Did the offense look better with Jacoby Brissett than Kyler Murray?
It did.
I don't know. I mean, like, this feels like one of those games where people won't remember it, but this might be one that the Arizona people, the front office there, the coaching staff, they file away. There's like, maybe we need to start looking, and maybe like a game like this could be like the precursor to, looking at whoever it is, Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, whoever winds up being at the top of the draft next year, Garrett Nussmeier. Like it feels like this is the sort of like, all right, do we really need to look at this type of thing? You know what I mean? Because they just got a guy going in there, and Jacoby is like, I love Jacoby. He's the ultimate like hands of 10 and 2 quarterback. Like he'll do it. He'll run the offense the way you're prescribing him to run it, and throws for 320, 2 touchdowns. Marvin Harrison goes down in game. McBride has a huge game. Zay Jones, Michael Wilson. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. Like it looked, there was an efficiency to it that maybe wasn't quite there with Kyler Murray, which I think might cause you to ask some big picture questions with them. And the Colts, look like this. I think we used this line last year. When you're clunkers, this like felt a little bit like the Colts clunker game, and they found a way to ride it out and win. So good for them.
Yeah. Again, I mean, these are the ones, and at this point, you're right. That is the focus. That is the big picture question. I mean, good for, Jacoby Brissett. He looked good enough, right? And I think you saw some guys kind of come a little bit more alive in that passing offense. It's tough right now because there's no complimentary run game. I mean, all your running backs are wiped out at this point, and you're in a bad spot on that front.
I mean, Conor was a really bad loss for them.
Yeah.
Because he sort of brings a lot of the personality to that run game, to that team. And so that was a tough loss. And then, obviously the Trey Benson thing, like only compounds it. DeMarcado, 1 carry, 1 yard. Tough encore for him. After we got to the bottom of that case last week.
We did, I will say this. I don't think that the general public agreed with me, but it was a fun conversation to have, nonetheless. Some very clever, clever in air quotes adjectives that were used to describe my take on that situation. But yeah, so there we are, and there we go. We got a Monday night doubleheader tonight. Mother of God, can we get rid of these things?
Well, wait till next week when we got another one of those coveted 10 p.m. Eastern kickoffs.
I love football,
and it's actually a great, like, it's actually a shame that I'm going to fall asleep in the second quarter of that one, because that's Texans Seahawks, which I really look forward to.
I know. I love football. But these two games are good, and they deserve to not be competing against one another. I was actually talking to a Falcons player about this on Friday. He was like, I love Monday Night Football. I love being the only game, and there's something really special about that. But it does take away from the fact, as you're a player, there's another game on. There is
that's what all the players. That's what the players have always talked about with Monday night. Is like, the Thursday doesn't really have the same thing because it's like in the middle of their work week. But Monday, the players are all generally off. It's kind of their downtime, and everyone. It's like the spot where the most players are watching, so they know all of their peers are watching them. Right.
Yeah. And now you got to shuffle back and forth between, and then they never quite get it right where they always end up having their B team. They're announcing B team on the really good game, and then Buck and Aikman are just like trying to play out the string. Like it just never works out exactly the way
I said it last week, though. I've got such a great appreciation for Troy Aikman right now. I think he might be my favorite guy in broadcasting. I'm friendly with Joe because of, I work with with Michelle Beisner, so they're great people. Buys and Joe are awesome. So I don't know Troy as well, but I said it last week. It's like I've gotten such a great appreciation for him as he's sort of settled into this phase where he's past like the point of giving a crap about what people think, just says what he thinks, isn't carrying anybody's water. Like there's like a kind of like a natural annoyance to Troy, the way Troy Aikman calls the game. He gets annoyed with things and isn't afraid to share it, which I really appreciate because it's the way I am,
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's no doubt.
And Joe's obviously awesome too. So for my money, I think the best team that we got right now.
This is a great compliment to Troy. My friend, one of my really good friends, his dad is from Egypt. Awesome guy. Definitely like a soccer first guy, but fell in love with American football when he came to the country. And he told me that he loves Troy Aikman because he's in amazing shape. And he said, is. And he said, I watched the games. And there's not an ounce of fat. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he is. He's ripped up for. I mean, I don't know how somebody his age. I mean, because he's got to be 60, cut, right? Baby. Is he 60? I think so. Close to it anyway.
He is 58. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. I like just everything about that guy like exudes quarterback anyway. You know what I mean? But I've really come to appreciate how he's in no one's pocket. He says what he thinks. What you see is what you get. Like I said, like I think the best color guy there is right now. With all due respect, like I love Herb Street on college, right? Like so Herbie in college and then Aikman in the pros.
Okay. I'm Olsen in the pros right now. And
you Joel Klatt guy? I like Joel Klatt a lot too.
I don't know. I just can't listen to anything after the Eric Collins Panthers game last week. I just need him. I need him in every game that I watch. I need him narrating my daily life.
So I'm at the point now at the Ohio State games where Gus John, like the Fox music, gives me anxiety because I've had like because of the Michigan games the last few years. So like Gus and Joel and the Fox music like legitimately give me anxiety. I need to get myself past that.
I'm probably going to I'm getting back there because, yesterday I went and visited, my buddies were up for the weekend and we were all hanging out. And then I went to go see my grandma and my whole family was there. And we were talking about, we were like kind of drawing out how Notre Dame can get back into the tournament, and I think they could probably back their way into the tournament if they win out, but they got USC. And so now I'm starting to feel that little undercurrent of nerves because, after you start the season the way that you do, you kind of just throw away any possibility that this is going to be okay. But now games start to matter again. And so I'm getting that little sick to my tummy feeling, which I like. It's the best part of being a fan.
Did you ever hear while we're on Gus, did you ever hear the Gus Johnson calling Denzel Ward in college?
No.
Can I play it for you right now?
Play it for me. Yeah.
All right, hold on. I'm going to play it for you right now. All right. Because it was against Maryland, Ohio State, Maryland, and Denzel Ward absolutely destroyed this guy. So here we go.
Caught first down. Woo! What a hit! Denzel Ward! You got barbecue back there? And you didn't invite me? Hurt my feelings.
Hurt my feelings.
So then he came back 8 years later or 7 years later. And last year, Ohio State had a corner, Denzel Burke, who now plays for the Cardinals, who had the same. It's amazing. Here, I'll play you the second one too. Because the second one is, hold on. All right. Here's the second one. The second one, this was.
Ward Slager to the sideline. First stop. Tagovailoa steps up in the pocket, drops it off. Woo! Heat in the kitchen. Denzel Burke. Reminds me of a kid named Denzel Ward. I was going right. You got barbecue back there and didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
So anyway, Gus's high wire act. Gus's high wire act. I love it. It gives me anxiety though, because those games are a high wire act for me in general. But yeah. So Gus and Joel, they're up there on my list, probably right underneath Fowler and Herbstreit on the college side.
Well, it's all good. I mean, I have a lot of respect for anybody calling those games. Not an easy job, and neither is this. But we have the best time.
We got to do it.
Yeah, we have the best time, and we appreciate you guys listening as always. Like, subscribe, download, leave comments, check out our YouTube, full episodes, clipped episodes, all of it, and follow our work on si.com because listen, guys, we're writing every day, podcasting a couple times a week. We're here for you. Enjoy that doubleheader.